Okay, I think I have to turn the camera. I did something stupid, so no landscape. Hello, am I audible? Can you guys hear me? Can someone just tell me whether my sound is good? I just want to know whether the sound is coming proper. Anyone, just send me a nod or a message just to make sure my sound is clear. Binto Jata Ba, good afternoon, good morning. Can you please tell me whether my sound is audible? Good. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. And it's a sunny day in the Gambia. Just got off work and trying to make sure that we get some issues addressed. First and foremost, I think we can talk about, what's his name again? Samsudeen Sarr. Yesterday, late in the evening, we got a message from Samsudeen Sarr himself that he had a meeting with the president. Well, he is a citizen of the Gambia and he has all rights to have a meeting with any public official, including the president, so long as it's been granted to him. But it's quite worrisome hearing some of the outcomes of that meeting. And we need to know whether what he scripted is actually what transpired. Mr. Samsudeen Sarr said that he had a fruitful meeting with President Barrow, and President Barrow, gave him the commitment and assurance that he wants to make sure that President Jammeh gets a fitting retirement, which no one happens to have a problem with it. But the issue is not about retirement for President Jammeh, and it's not in Barrow's place to even talk about retirement. It's in Barrow's place to tell Gambians the next steps as it relates to Yahya Jammeh and the way forward for the Gambia. Barrow was brought into office to heal the nation, fix the wounds of the past, which he has neglected seriously. Barrow has turned out to be an opportunistic politician whose personal interest supersedes the overall and overarching interest of Gambians. And that's one thing we should not accept, nor we should condone as Gambians. The president has shown Gambians the finger many a times, and some were very grave, but I think this is the biggest blow and the lowest he has ever hit on us as Gambians, for the simple reason he knows what our suffering has been all about, and he knows too well how he came to power. To tell us that one person that tormented an overwhelming majority of this country should be given a clean slate, come back to the country. Either President Barrow is indifferent to our plight, or his selfishness knows no bound. But the issue is not about him, it's about us. What are we going to do about it? Yes, what are we going to do about Mr. Barrow's pronouncements? His pronouncement, to me, I think, are not only belligerent, but he is indifferent to our plight. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get this fixed? For me, this is our $1 million question, and it begs answers. And the answers it begs is, how are we going to make sure that these things are fixed? It ought to be fixed. It needs to be fixed. Gambians need to make sure that we tell this president, we cannot continue life under your dispensation as is. Even though we're talking about months before elections for Gambians to decide, but his utterances are becoming a national security issue. National security in the sense that they are Gambians. The last person they want to see roaming the streets is President Jammeh. They are Gambians. If they happen to see President Jammeh out in the street, they may do things that are not good for the greater good, nor for themselves as individuals. Therefore, the president is duty bound to make sure that his words on Jammeh are economical, his words on Jammeh are to the best interest of the nation, and his words on Yahya Jammeh is not going to fuel discord in this country. Yes, it's a political season, but in as much as it's a political season, the president needs to be responsible and measured as the citizen-in-chief of this country to make sure that his actions don't put us in a position that we will all regret. Another thing that we need to talk about is the statement on the Standard newspaper that he prefers death over shame in the next coming election. Daggers are drawn if you really read between the lines of what he has stated. Basically, he has stated that losing is not an option. Why is losing not an option if this is a game? Politics. It's a game. You have winners and losers, but no one is a loser, because it's a marketplace of ideas that you put your ideas out there, and if your ideas are not bought, it doesn't make you a loser. But I think the president has set a tone and a stage that is scary for the election and post-election period of this country. And I think he needs to come back and clarify what he meant. He needs to come back and show the country that, hey, politics is a vocation. You can win, you can lose, but life for the state and the people goes on. And that's what we expect of him, and that's what we want from him. Therefore, I suggest that the IEC must reprimand him through a letter or whatever to make sure he gives out a public statement to assure the public that his words are either taken out of context or that was not what he meant. If not, we are all in trouble, and trouble is not what Gambia needs. If not, we will be looking for another impasse, and that's not what we need. What we need right now is to say one thing. 5 years almost of our transition has gone to waste. Why? Because of personal self-perpetuating agenda of our president. It's his prerogative, he can do that, but that's not what he bargained with us, the Gambians. He can continue with the agenda of building roads. That's not why we brought him in. We brought him in to sanitize our security environment. We brought him in to rein on the economic gangsters, i.e. private sector and public servants that looted the welfare of this state. We brought him in to give us a new constitution. We brought him in to make sure that the victims of Jammeh's 22 odd years reign of terror are brought to book. We brought him in to make sure that reparations are due to people who have fallen victim of Jammeh and his machinery. Now, if this is what Gambians need to use as a scorecard, we can safely say that the president has scored woefully. We'll start with the Jammeh Commission. Most of the enablers that were called at the Jammeh Commission are riding high and flying high, courtesy of the government of the Gambia, at the behest and pleasure of the President of the Republic, Adama Barrow. That's one. Security sector reform, 48 going to 50 odd months. We don't know where it stands, and we don't know whether even going into the election we'll have a genuine security sector reform. Thirdly, the issue of TRRC, and for it to be taken seriously. I hope he takes the TRRC seriously, because that's the last avenue of hope that victims have in making sure that perpetrators of crime are not only brought to book, but they account for the actions they have taken against the weak and defenseless people of this country under the reign of Yahya Jammeh. But my biggest worry and my biggest fear going forward is, are these elections going to be held in accordance with good practice? Why? Everything is behind schedule. Everything that we want for a good election is behind schedule. So forget about the Constitution. I think Gambians have gone past talking about the Constitution, so there's not much to do. So we now have to revert to the 1997 Constitution, and it's what we have, and that's what we're going to take. Where, you know, we have issues of attestation, we have issues of citizenship, but you know, there's not much we can do. So we need to go with that, thanks to a president who bulldozed and torpedoed our collective interests, the Constitution we all wanted, and one of the arch pillars of why we removed Yahya Jammeh. But now, the manner in which the president is attempting to court, because yes, he is courting former Jammeh machinery, which I don't have a problem. They're citizens so long as their hands are clean. But Jammeh himself, bringing him in will appease a segment of society, but that appeasement comes to the detriment of an overwhelming majority, and that Gambians must not accept, and that Gambians must not condone, and we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. You see, Gambians need to brace themselves. Some of us are not naysayers, and we don't believe in doomsday. Equally, some of us are not people who just want to make noise. We are concerned, and the concern is the collective good of Gambians wanted change when they booted Yahya Jammeh out. Equally, that collective good wanted a new dispensation in terms of institutional arrangement, setup, and legal provisions. Well, Mr. President, you have failed on that institutional arrangement, the legal provisions to strengthening those institutional arrangements. The very thing we disapprove of during Yahya Jammeh days, his pickup trucks all over the place to the point they were called Afinjangs. Today, you are not accountable to the very people that brought you in. Your expenditure is beyond your means. And anyone who is giving you money as patrons of your party are nothing but rent seekers. Rent seekers in the sense that they deserve and will get a return on their investments once, not even before you re-elected, once they give out. That's one. So, Mr. President, the very environment we wanted to set is the environment you have killed. The very environment we all complained about is the environment you have promoted, fostered, and perpetuated. So what has changed in the Gambia you inherited? Nothing, Mr. President. Actually, even worse. Our security system has gone nuts. Gambia is an unsafe environment today relative to 5 years ago. Say what may about Jammeh. I'm a critic of Yahya Jammeh, but I have to be fair with him. Relative public safety, outside of disappearance, arrest, and others, but I'm talking about crime, especially burglary and others, we were better off then than we are today, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, what have you done for us lately? I haven't seen it, but we know what we have done for you lately. Personally, your life is better off. Things that you could not have done personally on your own, you're able to do today. which we don't have a problem with. That's fair enough. But Mr. President, you have forgotten the very essence of why people got out to bring you to power. So now you're calling for a re-election. Do you think just building roads, bridges are enough for us? No, we are not interested in roads and bridges. That will come, and it will come later. What we're interested in today, Mr. President, is stronger institutions and weaker men. We don't want you to be powerful more than our institutions. We want institutions to control the appetite and the excesses of the human being, because we know human beings are generally self-centered, and you have shown us what being selfish and self-centered is all about. And this is why Gambians have been trying to create institutions that are stronger than people. But oh no, you've put that on the wayside, and you've made sure that's not something we have. And Mr. President, that's a bit scary for us, because that's not what we wanted. That's not what we bargained for, and that's not what we were expecting. We were expecting that you will help us steer the ship called Gambia towards a transitionary path whereby some of the things I highlighted before will be brought to fruition. You have failed us. You have woefully failed us, and I think it's high time Gambians collectively get up and understand that it's nothing personal against you, but it's personal against your scorecard. Your scorecard has shown us that you have been graded poorly, and you've been graded poorly based on your performance, Mr. President. Your performance is lackluster. Your performance is lethargic. Your performance is not up to expectation as per what Gambians wanted when they ushered in change. We booted Yahya Jammeh out not to get more roads. We booted Yahya Jammeh out to make sure the future of this country is bright, to make sure that what's left of this generation, they will make use of their lives, to make sure that this generation will hand over this country to the next generation and will give them a better country than they have inherited post 1994. So, Mr. President, you are now part of our problem, because you are not within the solution matrix of what we wanted. Building roads is not what we wanted, like I said, and since you haven't fixed our problems, you are part of our problem. And therefore, we must be, and we should be, duty-bound as citizens to find an alternative that will remedy the very ill we saw when we said enough to Yahya Jammeh. So, I mean, people who openly and blindly support you need to ask themselves, is all well in this country? And the answer is no, all is not well. Because we still have seditious laws in our books. We still have a constitution that's not giving us an equitable social contract. And because this country lacks a constitution that gives us, you know, an equitable social contract, we suffer from a whole lot of things, starting with the hate within each other. There is undue hate amongst our citizenry. We look at people, we hate them, and it's not the fault of the people who hate. It's the fault of the environment they find themselves, and it's the fault of the playbook used by the former republic or the former government to make sure that they entrench themselves into power by creating an us and them mentality. But Mr. President, show us one thing you have done since you came to fix that us and them mentality. Show us one thing you have done to unite the diverse peoples of this country. Show us one thing you have done to show the people of Fonyi that it's not about them, it was just about Yahya Jammeh. Show us one thing you have done to show the victims of Jammeh's rule that all is not lost, and hope is coming, and hope is on the way, and hope is what's going to deliver them out of the misery they found themselves. Mr. President, you haven't done none of those. So therefore, your interest is not our collective interest. And it's high time Gambians understand that your interest collides with the interest of Gambians. And that's why we need to do something. And doing something starts with making sure you are no longer as it relates to the election that's coming. I'm not going to tell any Gambian who to vote for, but I'm going to tell Gambians to vote wisely, and in voting wisely, in the process of elimination, yours is the force that they should cancel out. You should not be an option, Mr. President. Yes, you can be a candidate, but well-meaning Gambians, good, willing compatriots must not give you another term, because you have squandered almost 5 years of our time, and also at a very expensive cost. If we look at the budgets, how you have grown them 2017 to date, it has shown that you are part of our fiscal problem. It has shown you are part of Gambia's problem, and it has shown you are not and cannot and will never be part of Gambia's solutions. Madi, I can bring you in if you so choose to. Send an invite, I'll bring you in, we can have a conversation, because we need to have a conversation with Gambians. We need to talk. And yes, I'm tired of talking, but I can't stop talking, because my heart bleeds for this country, knowing where this government is taking us, knowing where this president is taking us, considering of his self-centered self-interest. So therefore, we are all duty-bound to make sure we bring about change. We are all duty-bound to make sure that we don't have another 5 years of arrested and wasted development, because development is not about roads. Development is about the well-being of the Gambian, the safety and security of the Gambian, the health of the Gambian, the education of the Gambian, and the feeding of the Gambian. These are the soft side of development and the primary tools of nation building. And this government has shown us that that's not a priority. A priority is what the eye can see, that's roads. And after building these roads, they should not brag about it, because they know of the corruption embedded in that in those roads. What does that mean? They have built you roads at a cost that's more expensive than the roads they have delivered to you. So they're not doing you a favor. Instead, they're harming you, because they have poor procurement guidelines, they have poor procurement system, they don't have transparency, and the supervision of some of these roads are poor. So we need to wake up and wise up and understand that we have been taken for a ride, and we are not fools, but we choose to be the way that we are. And right now, what we're going through, we deserve better. But if we deserve better, how are we going to begin to make a change? I think registration is one way, public sensitization, it's another way, and we also need to make sure that we do something to stop this menace, because this is a menace as we speak. And this menace, like I always tell people, Gambians are dignified and we deserve better. When you deserve better, you should not be treated the way you're being treated. And I want us to just bring this to an end, man. It's difficult, it's painful, but who is going to bail the Gambian cart? The Gambian cart needs to be bailed. And I always hope that we will do something to bring an end to it. And bring this to an end starts with making sure that the status quo don't continue post December 5th. If the status quo continues, rest be assured you're going to have a poorer nation, a more indebted nation, a very insecure nation, and a nation of lawlessness and banditism. Sorry, but that's what I see. And it's worrisome. It's something, Sheriff, thank you. It's very worrisome, and it should be everyone's concern, and we all must. Madi, how are you? Hi, Madi. Hello? Hello? Yeah, it's worrisome, and we need to worry about this, and we need to do something about it. And doing something about it starts with all of us taking the responsibility of our citizenship seriously, taking the responsibility of nation building seriously, and making sure that we don't allow our government to hoodwink us. We don't allow our government to take us for a ride, and we don't allow our government to just waste our meager and small resources as a country. And on the issue of Samsar, I think we need to ask the president to clarify who is telling the truth. Because for the president, knowing what Gambians went through, to tell us that he wants to reconcile and give Yahya Jammeh a fitting retirement. Before he gets all that, let him be answerable to what has happened in this country. So, Mr. President, you owe Gambians an explanation. And they say that silence is consent. So if you keep silent about this, we will take it that what Samsar said is the truth, that you are eager to do so. And yes, we know you are eager to do so because you want to court APRC. But that is very selfish of you, Mr. President, because all you are seeing is what you want. Can you please, for one, look at Gambia and see what Gambians want? What Gambians want are strong institutions. Bring to book all the perpetrators of crime, economic or otherwise. Equally, strengthening our institutions. Make sure that Gambia has strong institutions. But, Mr. President, if you haven't done that, your scorecard, to be honest, is a failing grade. You have failed based on our wants to bring the economic gangsters to book. You failed us through not putting to practice what the Janneh Commission prescribed. Security reforms are something Gambians wanted badly. You have failed because 48 going 54 months into your tenure, no security sector reform or anything meaningful. Land reforms, you have failed. People have died. More people have died through land disputes in your tenure than we have seen before. Civil service reform, nothing, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, what have you done that Gambians ask you? No Gambian ever asked you to build 1 meter of road, talk more of a kilometer of road. That's not what we were interested in. Roads has never been our priority come December 1st, 2016. Our priority was for you to give a stronger institution, stronger laws, create weaker men in terms of men being more powerful than institution. So everything we want to grade you and score you on, Mr. President, you have failed us. So, Mr. President, you are not fit for purpose unless someone is a political charlatan, unless someone is, a groupie that wants to blindly support and give you loyalty without objectivity. Well, the average Gambian don't want to give you loyalty without objectivity because you don't deserve our loyalty, Mr. President. You have failed us. You have sold us out. You have made us secondary. You have made your ambition primary, Mr. President. Well-meaning Gambians, that's their problem with you. You put yourself before the very people that entrusted you with power. And don't tell me I'm lying, because all these years you lived in Gambia, you've never built a house in your home. Mr. President, in the first few months you built one that wasn't enough or up to the envisaged lifestyle you want. You end up building an edifice. Mr. President, the office you sit in comes with influence. Please, do not monetize the influence of that office. Because the more you monetize the influence of that office, you're selling us out as Gambians. And this is the problem some of us, including Nyang Jai, happens to have. It's no hatred for you, because your life is inconsequential to mine. You don't feed me, I don't feed you. But I respect you as my citizen-in-chief because I voted for you. But I'm not happy in the manner in which my country is being managed. I'm not happy in the manner in which things are happening. And I'm not happy with the indifference you're showing us as it relates to making sure this country moves. Mr. President, fàttalekul ne nit ñi ñoo la boot moo tax nga am te li taxoon ñu boot la mooy suñ yaakaar mooy liñ séentu woon waaye liñ séentu yépp ñàkk nañ ko. God bless you. God bless the Gambia. But let's all wake up, rise up, register, and vote wisely. I will not tell any Gambian who to vote for. It's not my place. But I can tell you for sure that our current president doesn't have what it takes to deliver this country. This country is not currently as I speak to you, in need of roads. This country is in need of a supreme document
that empowers Gambians, assure us of our rights, and curtail the rights of others who can trample on us. This country wants the economic gangsters, be it in the private sector or public service, to be dealt with and dealt with accordingly. And unfortunately, Mr. President, you have rubbished the Janneh Commission report. This country wants a meaningful civil service reform. 4.5 years going 5, Mr. President, you have failed us on that. This country wants a significant civil service reform and also a security sector reform. Once again, Mr. President, you have failed us. The only cling of hope that Gambians have, and we hope something good may come out of it, is the TRRC. But, Mr. President, the TRRC just going and becoming something that we will look forward to is not enough. The very reasons we voted you in, you have reneged on all those. And now you have the audacity to tell Gambians you want to make sure Yaya Jammeh comes home and get a fitting retirement. Mr. President, Mr. President, our collective interest is bigger than your re-election. Therefore, if you think you're trying to court the APRC to support you, Mr. President, be selfless. Think Gambia first. Put Gambians before you, because we have given you a life that you only dreamt of. And yes, you are deserving because you are not a Gambian. But when we give you that opportunity, please don't take us as a doormat. See us as your principles. See us as your raison d'être, the reason you are. Nga delloo ñu njukkal njukkal mooy nga teg ñu fiñ toll ak fiñ war a nekk. Waaye segal ma war la, that's what you're doing to Gambians. We're bowing down and you're riding on our backs. Free gas, good food, good accommodation, tuition. Mr. President, office bi du pour loolu. Office bi pour waranteeru la liggéeyal sa réew. Yokka sa mun-muni doom yi. Sa doom yi mooy sa doomi réew mi. Suñ la tànnee nag def la bàyyi réew. Yow yaay ki war a sonna nit ñi njëriñoo. Waaye yow dañ la tànn def la bàyyi réew, yow nga bugg a njëriñoo ñun ñu sonna. Xoolaat ko ni te ñun ñu ngi xoolaat suñ boppa. On that note, thank you all. God bless the Gambia. And I hope you guys will not only register, but after registration you should vote wisely and also encourage fellow Gambians to come out and register and vote. And also let's put pressure to make sure that our diasporan brothers and sisters get the opportunity to vote, because they bankroll the freedoms we're enjoying today, financially and also with their sweat and their tears. So therefore, we the underground should make sure we fight for their right to vote. And lastly, Ubilen Semboti, the Ministry of Finance, now against the end of June, may want to take to Parliament another supplementary appropriation, meaning the budget we gave them wasn't enough, they want more money to spend. Gambia, this has to come to an end. It's robbery. You cannot be irresponsible with your expenditures and tell people we need more money. The country cannot continue to live like that, and we need to stop it. So I do hope that Gambians understand this and also pressure our Ministry of Finance and our Parliament not to put a supplementary. This is the third year in a row going forth we're having supplementary appropriation. And that's not right, because the public debt is growing. When you have an appropriation that's supplementary, you're borrowing. We cannot borrow only to spend on a lifestyle. We cannot borrow because we want to pay a contractor who is building roads. Why build a road when you cannot afford it? But you see, if the president focused on the very core ideals we brought him in to do, institutional reform, giving us a constitution, giving us civil service reform, we would not have had bloated public debt in some of these Nyomi Hakalang Road, the Banjul project. So if he is claiming that he has transformed Banjul, next time please ask him at what cost, because there are two costs to it: the direct cost that the taxpayer has to repay, and the indirect cost because of the poor procurement and corruption that's happening in the contracting process and procedures. Gambia, wake up, rise up, Emo Goswell. I hope you come to Gambia and register and make sure you vote. We all need to vote, because if we don't, we will not hand over this country to the next generation in a manner in which they deserve. Yaya Jammeh cannot waste my generation's time, and my generation waste the next generation's time. Then you know what? We are all as bad as Yaya Jammeh, and we should avoid that. And the only way we can avoid it is to make sure we get up, fight for country, work for country, advocate for country, and make sure country wins. Said Matijao, Mar, thank you so much. We've seen the outcome of your work today from the Supreme Court and what has happened at the Parliament. This is the Gambia we want. This is the Gambia we advocate for, and this is the Gambia we will keep on shouting and talking about, because our country deserves better, and the kids coming up deserves a better livelihood, environment, and a country. So long, and God bless you all. I love the Gambia, and for it I will forever remain true. Thank you all.